So let's talk a little bit more about this. Joining me now is Chris Plant, radio host of the syndicated Chris Plant Show, Leslie Marshall, host of the Leslie Marshall Radio Show, and a Fox News contributor. So, Chris, the president tweeted out that this is all planned by liberal activists, as he tweeted out earlier today. But then you just heard from Sean Spicer that it's a hybrid. Some of it's a professional manufactured base, and some of it is just really angry people. What do you see?
Well, honestly, I think that Sean pretty much nailed it right there. He really did. I've seen the websites that are organizing. There are a whole range of them. Some brand new organizations that have been stood up. They're online. They have mailing lists from Occupy and from other organizational efforts that have been ongoing for the last couple of years. And these online groups can get people to turn out, whether they're from the district or not. They may be from the district, but they're very vocal. They're very enthusiastic. They're being drummed up out of the bushes by organizers. There's no doubt about it. And then certainly I saw one man at one of the, there may have been Specter's meeting, in Iowa, Grassley's meeting, that seemed to be very concerned about his Obamacare, and he struck me as being very authentic. So I suspect that there is a blend of the two, and we know that the Democrats have said quite publicly that they're planning on emulating the Tea Party's approach, and this is sort of the less polite version of that.
And Leslie, we do know that just even within the Republican Party, there are a lot of people who see this differently. Justin Amash from the great state of Michigan says he's happy to answer questions and that these aren't liberal activists. These are fellow Americans with legitimate concerns.
Well, I think he and anybody else in the GOP who want to keep their job know that the constituents elected them to do a job, and the constituents are their employer, the American people specifically in their district. We also have to remember that in some of these districts, people might have voted for that particular congressperson, but they may not have voted for the president or vice versa. So for people to say, oh, they're all liberals or liberal activists, that's ridiculous. In addition, now people are actually showing their licenses, they're showing bills that reflect their address and their zip code, proving that they're constituents. And quite frankly, that's what makes America great, our First Amendment and our ability at these town halls to ask the tough questions of those that we elected to office, especially if they're up for another term.
Well, it sounds like you both are in agreement that they should continue, and that those representatives should continue to step up and answer the question and concerns of their constituents. Moving on, I wanted to talk about this immigration crackdown and the new reaction that we are seeing to all of this. Chris, what do you make of what you're seeing and hearing so far? Is the administration selling this to the American people?
Well, they're probably not doing the greatest of jobs in spinning this, but the news media is not working hand in glove with the administration on this. Certainly, look, the Obama administration that bragged about deporting 3 million people, and then they came up with a different set of numbers depending on which audience they were addressing. The hysteria over this is really quite remarkable for a range of reasons, not the least of which is what this administration is doing is talking about enforcing already existing laws, which the Democrat Party steadfastly opposes. And that's one of the central points of contention here, is whether we enforce existing laws. Well, you know, we're just going to deport the bad guys, and Barack Obama was only deporting bad guys. This administration, the Trump administration, is also prioritizing convicted felons and criminals beyond their being in the country illegally. It's pretty much thus far the same thing that the Obama administration was doing, and doesn't warrant all the hysteria, which is really politically driven.
And we know, Leslie, that this affects and targets the same 7 countries. Actually, I was going to call for that Stephen Miller sound, because senior advisor to the president, he's basically saying, Leslie, this isn't going to look a whole lot different fundamentally than the last one. Listen to this.
All right.
It's going to be responsive to the judicial ruling, which didn't exist previously. And so those are mostly minor technical differences. Fundamentally, you're still going to have the same basic policy outcome for the country. The rulings from those courts were flawed, erroneous, and false. The president's actions were clearly legal and constitutional and consistent with the long-standing tradition of presidents in the past.
Leslie?
Well, there are two issues here at play. One is the travel ban, and the other is immigration and what Homeland Security and ICE officials are going to do. One, many people say, continues to target Muslims, and that is the travel ban. The other continues to target Mexicans, who make up approximately half or more of the approximate 11 million undocumented workers in the country. With regard to the travel ban, I think that we're still going to see, obviously, a fight in the courts, and that's definitely going to go that way. I do believe it will go before the Supreme Court. Will it be an 8 or 9 court? That will be the question. With regard to immigration, targeting these individuals, there are a slew of problems here. One, I'm hearing that this immigration plan coming out of the White House puts the onus on detention in Mexico. That's going to be a huge problem. Mexicans have stopped the flow of Central American migrants to this country, which they could just completely stop.
I want to
and
get
then, of
Chris
course, we have
back in
children here.
Right, and that's also another issue, and we are hearing a lot of those concerns as well. And Chris, I want to get your last word in here.
Well, I know we all care very deeply about children, and if Mexico can stop the flow of people across their southern border, then we should be able to do the same. We have laws, we have immigration laws, we have borders, we have a country, or we don't. And that's really what this comes down to. And when it comes to the so-called Muslim ban, which is not a Muslim ban, and we're not targeting Mexicans, the United States is not targeting Mexicans, we're not targeting anybody. We have laws. There is a jihad going on. There is a war going on around the world.
We've got to leave it there, guys. Chris, Leslie, thanks for jumping on and being here today. Good to see both of you.
Thanks.
All right, well, a British border